What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for clicking on the video to see what we got going on. Today we are going to talk about the top baits for November. And I know we're a week or so into November right now. And the main reason I haven't posted anything for November yet is because I've been waiting on the weather to change, because I want the baits that I am talking about to be relevant for the majority of the country. But we have had a very balmy, warm fall, whatever you want to call it. And we just haven't had those cold snaps yet. They're coming. I'm not looking forward to it at all. If you know me, you know I hate the wintertime. So without further ado, let's get into the top baits to be throwing in November for bass. Largemouth, spotted bass, smallmouth, whatever bass you're going after. And occasionally them old striped bass, they'll sneak up on you too on some of the baits I'm about to show you. This is the month for me that they are the most productive. Our water temperature now is sneaking down into the high 50s. We still probably have some low 60s water in places, but most of it's going to be in that high 50s. And it won't be long, we'll be down to the mid to lower 50s, and that's when these baits are really going to start to play. So, number one bait that I have to have tied on in the month of November, this is just my fish around bait. I'm going to use this to cover water, locate fish, and basically it's generally going to be glued in my hands most of the time. And that is the good old lipless crankbait. This here is a regular old rattle trap, half ounce. What I'm going to do with this is burn it. This time of year, this is when you're going to want to burn that trap. As the water cools, you can slow it down and fish it down in the water column, but when we're in that high 50s, low 60s, any kind of bait activity I'm seeing, fish schooling on shad, coming up and busting shad, pick this bad boy up and crank it. This is fantastic in the fall of the year here in November for submergent vegetation. It's starting to die back if it hasn't already all the way. But if you can find some patches of that vegetation or grass that is still green, it's going to hold some fish. And there's not a better way to catch them this time of year than snapping a trap out of the grass. So where we're going to fish this is going to be those main lake points, secondary points, anything that is leading into those deeper drains. But always remember, those shallow flats need to be close by, because those fish in the wintertime, they like to pull up on those little flat shelves where they can get up and feed. Another big key, chasing the wind. Follow the wind. If you got wind blowing into it, that's going to push bait into those areas. That's where the rattle trap lipless crankbait shines. Number two. And this here is just a regular old spook. Actually, this is not the regular spook. This is the Super Spook Boyo. It's just a little smaller version of a regular spook. I like this one for my area because the bait tends to be about that size. I kind of start to set my buzz bait down in November and pick up the spook. Something about it when the water starts to cool off makes the fish really dial in on this spook. They kind of come off that buzzbait bite or that whopper plopper bite, and the spook really starts to shine. There again, fishing it in the same areas. Any available cover around those main lake points, secondary points, anything that's leading in to those deeper cuts that those fish will suspend in during the winter. So any shallow water adjacent, with grass flat, stumps, laydowns, anything that's going to be available cover close to that deep water, that's where I'm going to pick this spook up. Pay attention to the size of the bait in your lake, bait being the shad, whatever the primary forage is, and try to match the size of your spook to that. Some of those guys throw the great big saltwater super spook. If you've got big gizzards, you can throw it. I just have more confidence in the little bit smaller one to get a few more bites. And then last, my favorite bait to throw / baits to throw in November. This one here does not tend to get you a ton of bites, but a lot of times it gets you the right bites and sometimes multiple bites at one time. and that is the umbrella rig. A-rig, whatever you want to call it. This one here is the Yum Flash Mob Jr. Now this is my favorite umbrella rig, and I'm gonna fish this in the same areas that I'm fishing the trap or the spook. Now when I catch a few fish on the trap, a lot of times I will follow up with the umbrella rig as a cleanup bait, because sometimes you can catch 2 fish at one time on it, and a lot of times the bigger fish in that area is gonna eat this when it won't eat the trap. The key to this bait is to not overfish it. And what I mean by that is, and having Mega Live or Live Scope helps, because you can really track where that bait is in the water column, but keeping this bait on the right line. And what I mean by that is, if the fish are suspended at a certain depth, you want to keep this bait at that depth, slightly above them. If they're on the bottom, you want to keep it just up off the bottom. And sometimes that's really hard to do just guessing, because you can really pull this bait up a lot higher than what you would expect. But having the forward-facing sonar, you can kind of see it. I like to just go with very natural shad type patterns. My back swim bait, sometimes I like to go just with a little bit different color swim bait and a little bit bigger. You're going to throw this bad boy out there and basically slow reel it in the strike, try to keep it in the strike zone, and flare it every now and then. With these blades, that's one great thing about the Flash Mob Jr. is you get that flash out of it, and a lot of times that really gets those fish to react. So that is my top 3 for November. In another video to come, I will break that down a little further and show you where you need to be fishing those baits, what you need to look for on the map to fish those efficiently through November. Now with the fall that we've had in the Midwest, this will translate over into December. As we get more into later December, we're gonna have another bait change up that will be to come. So thanks guys for tuning in. Top 3 baits for November. Tie them on and go catch a good one.